she said. If you trust me, you don't need a prenup. I said, if you loved me, you'd understand why I do. I, 34 am, never thought I'd be the kind of guy who would bring up a prenup. I grew up in a small town in Michigan, raised by blue-collar parents who worked their asses off just to get by. My dad ran a plumbing business, my mom was a nurse, and money was always tight. I watched them struggle through rough patches, but always come out stronger. They didn't have much, but what they had, they earned. And they held on to each other like their lives depended on it. So when I met Sarah, 32F, I didn't think prenup would ever be in my vocabulary. We met 5 years ago in Chicago at a friend's 4th of July barbecue. She was funny, driven, and charming in a way that felt effortless. She worked in marketing at a tech company. I was running my own small software startup. At the time, I was still grinding, barely profitable, working 70-hour weeks just to stay afloat. She was more stable financially and even helped me design my first client pitch decks. Things got serious quickly. We moved in together within 8 months, got a dog, started splitting everything 50-50, rent, groceries, even vacations. We joked that we were married without paperwork. Honestly, it felt like a real partnership. But 2 years ago, my startup finally took off. We landed a couple of big government contracts, and suddenly my income quadrupled. I bought a house in Lincoln Park. I paid off my student loans. I started investing heavily in my retirement and diversified into real estate. Life changed fast, and that's when something inside me changed too. I started thinking differently about money. Not out of greed, but responsibility. I had employees now. I had business partners. I had legal liabilities. My lawyer, who I brought on during my last funding round, sat me down one afternoon and said bluntly, "You're not just some guy with a dream anymore. You've built something, and you have to protect it, especially if you're thinking about marriage." I told Sarah about the prenup over dinner one night. We were at this cozy little Italian place we both loved. I figured the familiar setting might soften the blow. "Wait," she said, setting down her wine. "You're serious?" "Yeah," I replied. "I've been talking with my lawyer. I think it's smart, just in case." That's when her face hardened. She leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and asked, "Do you not trust me?" "It's not about trust, Sarah. It's about protecting what I've built. The business, the house, the investments. She cut me off. "If you trusted me, you wouldn't need this. You think I'm with you for your money." That hit harder than I expected. "No," I said quietly. "I don't. But if you loved me, you'd understand why I do." She didn't say much after that. We ate in silence. She picked at her pasta, barely touched her wine. On the drive home, she stared out the window. When we got in, she went straight to the guest bedroom and closed the door. The next few days were cold. We still lived together, but the air between us was icy. She'd give one-word answers, avoided eye contact. Eventually, she snapped, "You're not the man I thought you were." And I said, "I'm still the same man. Just one who's worked too hard to lose it all over a what-if." I didn't think this would become a deal-breaker. But then she gave me an ultimatum. Drop the prenup, or I walk. I didn't sleep much that night. Her words echoed in my head. Drop the prenup, or I walk. It felt surreal. This wasn't a conversation about napkins at the reception or what flavor cake we'd order. This was the core of what kind of future we'd have. And here we were, engaged, living together, planning a wedding. Suddenly at a crossroads that neither of us could have predicted a year ago. The next morning, I made coffee like usual. She didn't come into the kitchen. I left her mug on the counter anyway. Eventually, I knocked on the guest room door. "Can we talk?" She opened it slowly. She looked tired too. I sat on the edge of the bed while she stood by the window, arms folded again. That was becoming a pattern. "I don't want to fight," I said, "but I need you to hear me out." She gave a slight nod, but didn't speak. "I didn't bring this up because I think you're a gold digger or because I don't believe in us. I brought it up because I've seen what can happen when things go bad. My business partner, Jason, his divorce nearly ruined our company. He didn't have a prenup. His wife got half of everything, and she never stepped foot in the office once. She didn't even know what we were working on, but she had a legal claim to it all." Sarah looked down, her fingers tightening around her arms. "I've built this company from scratch," I continued. "The team, the code, the vision, it's all mine. And I want to marry you, yes, but not at the risk of watching it fall apart if things ever go sideways." She finally spoke, her voice soft but sharp. "So you're planning for us to fail?" "No," I said. "I'm planning in case we do. Just like we buy insurance. Just like you had me sign an NDA when I visited your office. It's not distrust. It's foresight." Then she hit me with something that stopped me cold. "My mom left everything behind for my dad," she said. "Her career, her dreams. And when they divorced, she got nothing. No house. No retirement. Just me. I watched her clean hotel bathrooms for 15 years after that, and not once did my dad say thank you. That explained a lot. She wasn't just reacting to me. She was reacting to her past. I'm not your dad, I said gently. And I'm not your partner's ex, she shot back. We sat there in silence. For once, no one had the upper hand. That weekend, we took a break. She stayed with a friend, and I buried myself in work. We exchanged a few texts, logistics stuff mostly, bills, the dog, a wedding vendor who needed an answer. Nothing emotional. I used that time to really think. What mattered more to me, the prenup or her? But every time I leaned toward backing down, I imagined losing everything I'd worked for in one court order. I didn't want to go through life hoping we'd never split. I wanted to be prepared if we ever did. That's not fear. That's maturity. By Monday, she came home. We sat down at the dining table. She was calm, maybe even resolved. I talked to a lawyer, she said, just to understand what a prenup even means. And I still hate it, but I see where you're coming from. I felt a flicker of relief. But, she added, there has to be fairness. I'm not signing something that makes me feel disposable. Good, I replied, because I'm not offering one of those. We agreed to go to a mediator. To make it ours, not just something my lawyer drafted. I thought we'd turned a corner. But I was wrong. Because 3 weeks later, I found something that changed everything. We'd started drafting the prenup together, with a mediator we both liked, a retired judge who kept things balanced. It wasn't easy, but it felt like progress. We added terms that protected both of us. My company would stay mine, but any assets we built together, like future homes, joint investments, and even the lake house we talked about retiring in, would be shared. Sarah still wasn't happy, but she was calmer, more rational. She said things like, this doesn't feel romantic, but I guess not everything in marriage is, and at least we're doing this together, not in court like my parents. I felt hopeful, until a late Thursday night, when I was cleaning up the office room at home, our shared workspace. I was organizing cables and moving some of her folders when her old iPad lit up. It hadn't been used in months. I only noticed because it buzzed with a notification. Curious, I picked it up to turn off notifications, and saw a message preview pop up. So what's the backup plan if he doesn't drop the prenup? It was from her best friend, Qley. My stomach dropped. I knew I shouldn't look, but I did. I opened the message app. What I saw wasn't illegal, but it felt like betrayal. The entire thread with Qley was about me. About the prenup. About how Sarah was playing nice for now, but was still waiting him out. She even wrote, worst case, I sign it, stay married for a few years, and then walk with half of our assets. Just gotta make sure anything joint is under both names. I'll be fine. It was like the oxygen left the room. I scrolled, hoping it was a joke or sarcasm, but no. It was a strategy. She'd vented about how controlling I was for wanting a prenup, but she had no problem talking about the financial angles of marriage behind my back. She wasn't fighting against the idea because she was offended. She was resisting it because it ruined her long game. I sat there for hours, just staring at the screen. The woman I was about to marry had turned our relationship into a silent chess match. I was out here trying to be fair, to compromise. And she was already planning what she'd get when things fell apart. That weekend, I asked her to go out for brunch. Public place. Neutral ground. I didn't say anything until the check came. Then I pulled out a printout of the messages. I didn't yell. I just slid them across the table. She froze. Her face went pale. Then red. Then cold. You went through my private messages? She snapped. I found them by accident. And after reading them, I'm glad I did. She tried to defend herself at first. Said she was just venting. That Qley encourages the worst in her. That it was just emotional. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. I wanted to believe we were in this together, I said. But you weren't just against the prenup. You were looking for ways around it. That's not love, Sarah. That's manipulation. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just stared at me and said, fine. If you want out, then we're done. I walked away that day without a dramatic fight. No broken plates. No shouting. Just silence. I canceled the wedding. Called the vendors. Told friends and family it was off. She moved out a week later. I still believe in love. I still believe in marriage. But now, I also believe in protecting yourself. Not just from the world, but sometimes from the person sleeping next to you. And every time someone tells me prenups ruin trust, I just smile and say, if they do, maybe there wasn't any trust to begin with. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.